Welcome, one and all, to the Ancient Journey. On today's journey, phantom phone calls. But before we get started, don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and a share. And if you're into our content, please check out the rest of the channel and subscribe. It helps grow the channel and it keeps us producing these videos. How many times have you answered the phone only to find dead silence on the other end? Now, silence is probably a welcome change from someone calling you about your car's warranty or some special offer or maybe a bill that hasn't been paid. And in the age of improving cellular phones, dropped calls and dead lines are becoming fewer and fewer. But what if the line wasn't dead, but instead the line was the dead, calling from the other side, trying to reach out and touch someone? In the 1979 book Phone Calls from the Dead, parapsychologists D. Scott Rogo and Raymond Bayless investigated reports of apparent phone calls from the dead to the living. The book is incredibly hard to get now, and very expensive. And interestingly, D. Scott Rogo was murdered in 1990 at the age of just 40, and his murderer was never found. But this isn't some sort of curse tied to the book. Co-author Raymond Bayless lived until the age of 84 and died of natural causes in 2004. But in the book, Rogo and Bayless attempted to verify some of these calls from the dead. In these calls, a living person would receive a call from someone who had recently died, or in fact had been dead for some time. The person receiving the call may or may not have known that the caller was dead. On the internet, there are thousands of stories like this. In one example, a woman named Janae stated that her oldest brother's best friend Joe had died of a heart attack. One night, the phone in Janae's house rings, and to her surprise, the person on the other end of the phone was Joe. The man asked to speak to Janae's brother. He stated something strange is going on, and when Janae told him her brother wasn't home, the man hangs up. The caller ID on Janae's phone reads, "out of area," and the phone call could not be traced or redialed. A woman named Betty reported that she received a strange phone call at her new office. The man on the other end asked for Mary, a co-worker of Betty's who was out to lunch. The man used a nickname to ask for Mary before he corrected himself and asked for her by her full name. "Could you tell her this is her brother?" he asked. "I really missed her at the family gathering, and I wished that she had gone." When Mary came back from lunch and Betty relayed the message, Mary broke down in tears. You see, her brother had died in a car accident some 5 years earlier, and the family reunion he mentioned, that had just been 2 weeks earlier. And the nickname he used for Mary, though it is not reported in the story, was one Mary said only her brother would know. One Christmas Eve, a woman named Bonnie reported that her dead mother had called her 3 years after she had died. When Bonnie said to the woman, "This can't be you, Mom, you're dead," the woman on the other end retorted, "Oh, come on now," and became very hostile. Eventually, the line went dead. Bonnie said her mother had an unmistakable accent, and she was certain she was speaking to her on the phone. But enough of these internet message board stories. How about some real stuff? On September 12th, 2008, a commuter train carrying 225 passengers collides with a freight train carrying 3 workers in the San Fernando Valley of California. The crash claims the lives of 25 people and injures 135 others. One of the 25 dead was Charles Peck. Charles had come to Los Angeles for a job interview so he could be closer to his fiancée, Andrea Katz. The pair had delayed tying the knot until they were in the same state. Andrea is on her way to the train station to pick up Charles when she hears of the crash on the radio. she is soon joined by Peck's parents and siblings. Peck's body is recovered from the wreckage 12 hours after the crash, but for the first 11 hours after the crash, Peck's cell phone is calling his loved ones over and over and over. His phone places calls to his son, his brother, his stepmother, his sister, and his fiancée. Over 30 phone calls in all. When they would answer the phone, they would hear nothing but static, and when they tried to call him back, the phone would go directly to voicemail. The search crews attempted to find the source of the calls by using the phone's signal to try to locate it, and they ventured through the twisted wreckage to search, following the signal as they went, thinking that Peck was somehow alive in the toppled cars. The phone calls stopped, and 1 hour later, the searchers located Peck's body. Charles Peck had died on impact, but his phone didn't, and led rescuers to his body. His phone was never found, and sadly, another phone turned out to be the cause of this accident, as it was found the train engineer had failed to notice a red light stop signal because he was too busy texting. Because he missed that signal, his train hurtled down the tracks, where the freight train was headed straight towards him. Nearly a day after a horrific collapse of the Surfside Champlain Tower in Florida, dozens of phone calls are placed from Arnie and Miriam Notkin's phone to their children's home. The Notkins' phone was next to their bed in the condo, and seeing the entire building in rubble made it very difficult to think that the Notkins had survived. But still, the phone calls kept coming, and the phone kept ringing. Their grandson, Jake Samuelson, reported family members would try to answer the call, only to hear static. If they tried to call the number back, they would hear the phone pick up and then get static, or a busy signal. 5 days after the first call, there is no explanation to their origin. First responders search the rubble where they believe the Notkins would have been. They find no signs of life. A reporter attempts to call the phone number to verify the story. He receives a Verizon message that the call cannot be completed as dialed. But Verizon says that the number is not theirs. It is an AT&T number, and Verizon refuses to answer any further questions. After that, the reporter tries to dial it again and only gets busy signals. And best-selling author Dean Koontz also fell prey to a call from the dead. Koontz told his biographer he had received a call on his unlisted office phone. When he picked up, he heard the voice of a woman who he said sounded very far away. Koontz said she spoke hurriedly, giving Koontz a stern warning. "Please be careful," she begged. When Koontz asked who was calling, the faraway voice repeated the message 3 more times, and then the voice faded into nothing. Koontz later claimed that the voice sounded like his mother, who had passed away some 20 years earlier. 2 days later, Koontz checks in on his father, who was being treated in a mental health facility for behavioral problems. When Koontz enters the room, his father lunges out at him with a small knife. Koontz is left unharmed after wresting the knife from his father, but the situation stuck in his head. Was the faraway voice actually his mother, trying to warn him? And these days, the phone calls are being replaced with other forms of communication. Tim Hart is sitting on his couch, reading his emails from his phone. He comes to one that says the sender is Jack Froese. Tim pauses a moment. Jack had died 5 months earlier. The subject line of the email stated, "I am watching," and when he opened it, the email read, "Did you hear me? I'm at your house. Clean your attic." But Tim isn't the only one getting these emails from Jack. His cousin Jim McGraw receives an email from Jack asking how he was recovering from his broken ankle. Jim had just broken his ankle 1 week before. "Tried to warn you," the email read. "Gotta be careful." So is this all just a glitch? Is this just a series of pranks that have been publicized, or is there something to it? Can the dead reach out from the beyond and touch someone? If you could, wouldn't you? Thanks for watching, and thanks for sharing the journey.